The Tennessee Vols, man, they came a really long way. They had their first double-digit season of wins since 2007. And going into 2023, man, I think that Tennessee is going to continue the success that they had last year, and they're going to be able to build upon their 2022 campaign. Now, my heart got broke because y'all know I'm a diehard Hendon Hooker fan when South Carolina took him out the game and got him basically thrown out of the first round of the draft, and also ended his Heisman hopes. If Hendon Hooker would have stayed healthy all of last season, he would have won the Heisman Trophy over Caleb Williams and whoever else. And what was even more embarrassing is that he wasn't even a finalist. They could even invite Hendon Hooker to NYC. They invited Stetson Bennett over Hendon Hooker. But Hendon Hooker's now with the Detroit Lions. He's in the NFL now. Tennessee has moved on, and they have Joe Milton at QB this year. Now, I know not a lot of people are super high on Joe Milton. A lot of Michigan fans will tell you that he was a bum, he was a scrub, he was a jabroni, he couldn't play. But if you watch what Joe Milton did against Clemson in the Orange Bowl, he was absolutely lights out. And if he can play that way for the whole entire season in 2023, I think potentially he could be better than what Hendon Hooker was. Oh, he could be better than Hendon Hooker, JT, you pushing it. No, he actually can be. He has a way stronger arm than Hendon Hooker. Like, Joe Milton damn near may have the strongest arm in the history of football. Stronger than Jamarcus Russell. I mean, this dude has a damn cannon. He can sling the rock with some of the best of them. And you look at the receivers that he has going into this season. You did lose Jalin Hyatt, but you do return Brew McCoy. And then you got Squirrel Wright. Please, if Squirrel Wright ends up being one of the best receivers in college football, I'm absolutely going to lose my mind, because this is one of the best names I've ever heard out of a wide receiver. Squirrel White, fam? Squirrel White? Every time this man scores a touchdown, I'll be saying, Squirrel. You do not want Squirrel White to end up becoming one of the best college football receivers this season, because I promise to God, he's going to be one of my most talked about players on this platform. If Squirrel White ends up becoming a superstar, I am absolutely going to be abusing this man's name. This man's name is Squirrel White. That's one of the most fantastic football names I have ever heard and pronounced in all my years watching and talking about football. Squirrel White? You saw what he was doing at Clemson in the Orange Bowl. He was going off. And then you got Deontay Thornton from Oregon. He was a monster. In the few games that he was playing in, when he got significant PT for Oregon, he was snapping. I don't think Tennessee is going to have a huge drop-off. Now, they're going to be able to win 11 games like how they did last season. That's going to be a little tough. But I definitely think they're going to be able to get to 9-10 wins this season and be able to be in contention for a New Year's Six bowl game. This offensive line still is going to be really good. They did lose 2 starters, one of those guys being a first-round pick and Darnell Wright. But I think that Tennessee's offensive line is still going to be amongst the best in the SEC. You got your 2 running backs from last year returning in Jabari Small, and then you got Jalin Wright. The only concern that most people have about the Vols is going to be, how good is their defense going to be? And I feel like their defense was underrated, because the way people talk about Tennessee, they make it seem like Tennessee doesn't play defense at all, when their defense was actually pretty good last year. Wasn't this the same defense that shut down LSU, shut down Will Levis in Kentucky's offense? So I don't know where this narrative is coming from some people out there who keep saying that Tennessee doesn't play defense. Tennessee, I think, plays pretty good defense. The only problem with Tennessee's defense is that their secondary was not that good last year. And I think a large reason for that was because Tennessee scores the football at a fast rate, and they score touchdowns so quickly that their defense is on the field for a lot of plays. So you can never really expect to have a great defense when your offense is this fast. Your guys are going to get fatigued. They're going to get worn out a lot faster. And plus, they were blowing out nearly every single body they played into the tail end of the regular season. And of course, teams are going to have to throw the football a lot to get back into the game. So of course their secondary is going to have some lapses in coverage from time to time, but I think their secondary is going to be dramatically better this season compared to what it was last year. They have plenty of experience on the back end of their secondary. Their defensive line has a lot of experience blended with youth and talent. They have a lot of 4-stars, a lot of highly touted guys on that defensive line. And when you look at their schedule, I don't think it's all that difficult. I think they get to the rough portion of their schedule after their bye week. Before their bye week, they play Virginia, who was awful last year. They're probably still going to be awful this year. You play Austin Peay. I don't even know where the hell that school is located at. It may be in Texas or somewhere. You got to play Florida. You got to go against Graham Mertz. Graham Mertz, man, that's a dub. Then you got to play UTSA. Now, that may be a fun game because UTSA, I'm not going to sleep on them. If you're a Vols fan, you definitely shouldn't sleep on them neither. They got a very good quarterback, a very good head coach, and they've been one of the better group of 5 teams for over the last 2-3 years. So definitely don't overlook UTSA, but it's really hard to go on the road and win at Tennessee. Then you got to play South Carolina, which, you know, you can never count them out. You can never count out the Beamer boys. You never can count them out. We saw what they did to you last year. So you should be going into that South Carolina game motivated with revenge on your line, because not only did they take out your star quarterback and Heisman hopeful Hendon Hooker, but they also ended your college football playoff dreams. So that South Carolina game, you're playing them at home. You should have a lot of motivation to knock those guys off the map and to embarrass those fools. Then after you play them, you go into your bye week, and then that's where shit really starts to get tough. You got Texas A&M. I think that Texas A&M is going to be a legitimate contender in the SEC this year. I think they have a very better chance at winning the SEC West than what a lot of people are giving them credit for. They have one of the best talent. They have one of the most talented rosters in all of college football. They recruited very well. Jimbo Fisher has given up play calling duties to Bobby Petrino. Connor Wigman looked really good last year. And you saw how they knocked off LSU the final game of the season. So definitely do not look over Texas A&M. Then you got to go on the road to play Bama. You know Bama's looking for some payback after what Jalin Hyatt did to that secondary. 5 touchdowns and over 200 damn yards. You know Alabama and Nick Saban are trying to get that revenge on you. Then you got to go on the road and play Kentucky. And there's a lot of Tennessee fans that say they own Kentucky. Kentucky looking pretty nice this year. If you're a Vols fan, I know you probably don't care to keep up with Kentucky football, but Kentucky has a really good team going into this season. They could be just as good as what you're going to be this year. So that's going to be a fun game that could go either way. You got to play UConn. Then you got to play Missouri, who is the definition of mid in the SEC. Like, if y'all don't beat Missouri, man, I'm going to be really disappointed if y'all do not blow the brakes off Missouri. They got Eli Drinkwitz as their head coach. Yeah, he has a fun name to pronounce, but Missouri is mid. The M in Missouri means mid. Then you got to play the University of Georgia. You already know Georgia's a juggernaut. They're the top dogs. They're the kings. They're the man in this division. And if Kentucky wants to have a chance at being able to win that SEC East this year, you know you're going to have to find a way to beat Georgia, which I kind of think is not going to happen this year. It could be a closer game than what it was last year. Like, y'all really let me down with how y'all played against Georgia, man. And I got to vent about this because I really haven't had a chance to talk about how y'all got embarrassed by Georgia. I thought y'all was really going to win that game, man. I put money on y'all to win. I had $250-something on y'all beating Georgia, and y'all just crapped the bid like that. Hendon Hooker was getting thrown around like a rag doll. The offense was getting clamped up. Like, what happened to the best offense in college football in that game, man? What happened to y'all? If you're a Vols fan, I know you don't want to go back to that nightmarish game, but we got to talk about it. Y'all offense cannot perform the way that it did against Georgia this year like it did last year, man. Y'all got a really good team. This defense is going to be really good. This could be one of the best defenses in the SEC this year. So there's no reason why this offense should be struggling against Georgia. Your biggest selling point for your program is how great your offense is. College football's fastest, most explosive offense. So y'all shouldn't be getting clamped up by Georgia. I don't give a damn who they have at quarterback. I don't give a damn if they got Kirby Smart and Will Muschamp, the two best defensive minds in college football, on their staff. You got Josh Heupel, people. Josh Heupel is one of the best offensive minds in the game. You got one of the most talented receiving cores in all of college football. And you got Joe Strong Arm Milton, who can sling that rock, man. Y'all better go and challenge Georgia this year. Y'all better smack Georgia in the mouth. Y'all don't got to beat Georgia, but at least give Georgia a close game. Have y'all not seen Georgia's schedule? They play a cupcake schedule. And I know we use that to make fun of the SEC, but Georgia really has a cupcake schedule this year. You're pretty much going to be Georgia's first true test late in the season. Y'all better give Georgia a competitive game. Y'all better show them boys what it means to be a Tennessee Vols. You better show them boys what it means to put that Tennessee helmet on and with that big orange T logo on the side of your helmet. So hopefully y'all can give Georgia a game. I think that y'all will. And then y'all got to play Vandy. Now, I think the floor for Tennessee this year is 8 wins. Let's say Joe Milton ends up not being good and he was fool's gold and the Orange Bowl win over Clemson. You still got Nico. I'm not going to try to pronounce his last name because I still don't know how to pronounce it. But he was one of the highly touted quarterbacks coming out of last year's recruiting cycle. So Joe Milton ends up crapping the bid. You throw him in there and things should be rolling at a pretty good level. So worst case scenario, Joe Milton doesn't play good. I think you win 8 games if you have to start Nico. Now, my ceiling for Tennessee, my best case scenario for the Vols this year is 10 wins. If everything goes right, I think Tennessee at best should be able to win 10 games. Maybe they could get to 11 wins again, but when you look at their schedule and the fact that you have to play Texas A&M, who should be really good, Bama on the road, not too many teams beat Alabama at home. I definitely think that those could be 2 potential losses. The Texas A&M game is 50-50. I'm pretty confident that you may struggle against Alabama and Tuscaloosa. You got to play Kentucky on the road right after you play Alabama. Anytime you got to go back on the road and back-to-back weeks, especially with playing Alabama on the road, the week prior is always going to be tough. I think Kentucky is going to be a really good football team this year. And then you got to play Georgia. So you potentially could have 3 losses on your schedule this year. But I think that Tennessee is going to go 9-3. Maybe they end up going 10-2. And Vols fans may get mad that I have them going 9-3, 10-2. You may say, man, JT, who we going to lose to? I mean, I definitely am really confident that you're going to lose to Alabama and Georgia. And I think that 3rd loss could come to either Texas A&M or Kentucky. But either way, I still think that a 9-win, 10-win season would be really good for the Vols, considering the fact that last year they kind of came out of nowhere. They kind of exploded on the scene. There were people who knew Tennessee was going to be good, but I don't think too many people thought Tennessee was going to be in contention for the college football playoffs year 2 under Josh Heupel. Tennessee, the Vols, Rocky Top, they're rolling right now. I think they're going to be one of the best teams in the whole entire SEC going into 2023. I don't think they're at the level right now to be able to compete and knock off Georgia for the East. I think maybe one more year or 2 down the road, you'll be able to give Georgia a legitimate challenge and be able to win this division potentially from them. But right now, Georgia just is on another level. They're a football factory. But Tennessee is definitely moving in the right direction, and they're definitely on their way up. And I got to say this before I move on. Josh Heupel has really proved me wrong. When Tennessee first hired Josh Heupel from UCF, I thought that it was going to be a bad hire. UCF, I thought, got worse under Josh Heupel every single year. I didn't know how well he was going to be able to recruit at Tennessee. He's proved me wrong. And based on what I saw last year, I don't think that Tennessee is going to be going anywhere in the wrong direction anytime soon. I think that they're going to continue to make the SEC and solidify this as the best conference in college football.